Sure. And please stand up for.
Let me just whip this out.
I have that.
Oh, well, okay. We don't have one?
All right, pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for bringing your flag.
You're welcome.
Good job.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Black.
Here.
Commissioner Goulet.
Present.
Commissioner Whitten.
Present.
And Chair Laguna. Or sorry, Chair O'Keller.
Present.
Thank you. All present. Commissioner Laguna is absent.
You sent you read the public comment requirements.
So spoken public comment will be accepted during the meeting in person or remotely through Zoom. Public comments in person will be taken first, followed by speakers on Zoom. You'll be called on by name to speak when it is your turn. If you wish to speak to the commission, please fill out a speaker slip located near the conference room door. If you have anything that you wish distributed to the commission and included in the official record, please hand it to myself for the Parks Department. And I will distribute the information to commission members and staff. For speakers on Zoom, please use the raise hand function to indicate that you would like to speak for an item. When the chair calls on public comment, click on raise hand and speakers will be notified shortly before they're called to speak. You'll be provided the ability to unmute your microphone and begin speaking. And public comment is limited to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Could I get a motion to set the agenda?
I'll make a motion to set the agenda for the October 3rd meeting, 2024.
And through the chair, actually, if it make a request to change something on the order of the agenda, Youth Commissioner Liaison Colin Chu is on, but he's only able to stay until 4:30. And so if he could do his introduction before the foundation report and the department update, then I would ensure he has something before he has to leave the meeting.
No member of the commission.
No issue
No
with
objection.
that. No objection.
So with that little amendment, can I get a second? Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Well, aye, or silent means yeah. Yeah, all right.
Well,
Yeah.
and I,
Okay. And so could we get on then to the youth commissioner liaison?
I think
Introduction.
we can still take public comment before we have to take general public.
Yeah, I
comment.
know, I had understood the motion to be, to have it before the foundation report and the department update, but normally you do general public comment before that.
Okay, so do you have any public comments in regards to that? Because of procedural, you're just moving something from, the public does not need to.
If you would, it's really at your discretion, if you
Yeah.
prefer to have the youth commissioner
Yeah, I
introduce
think we
himself
should
first, I
have
think that's
since-
fine.
Yeah, since we are moving.
Sure,
him
yeah,
up
yeah, that's
because of time constraints, so I think we should just go ahead and do it.
Okay, great.
we second, okay, Commissioner Block second.
Colin, I'm going to turn it over to you. Are you able to unmute and
Yes, thank you so much. Would you like me to turn on my camera? Right now it says unable to start video.
let me just see. I think you should be able to now. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Hi everyone, it's so nice to see you. I was on the meeting last month, but thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself, and thank you to Hannah for just being in partnership and communication. To briefly introduce myself, my name is Colin. I'm a current junior at the Nueva School, which is in San Mateo. This is my first year on the county's youth commission. I am a member of our environmental justice subcommittee. So you may know Anjali, who was a liaison to the Parks Commission last year. So I work with her on the Environmental Justice Subcommittee, along with two other members. I'm very passionate about environmental justice, which is why I'm very excited to be serving as a liaison to the Parks Commission this year. And in particular, my interests include policy advocacy, community volunteering, and also scientific research, all through the lens of environmental justice. So I'm just here. I'd love to learn more about what you are doing and how I could get involved with your work. In particular, bringing a youth voice to any projects, or also being someone who could facilitate conversations and partnerships between the Parks Commission and the Youth Commission. So if there's any way that I could provide a voice, a youth voice, or I can do anything to support your projects, please let me know, because I'd love to get involved.
Colin, Commissioner Monet from North County, District 5, San Mateo County. I applaud you for getting involved, and I applaud you for getting involved early at a very ripe age of 16. I hope that you learn a lot from this commission, and I hope that in the future, when you decide to pursue a career and when you expand your horizons at adulthood, that you know that you learned so much and that you benefited a lot from the Parks Commission here in San Mateo County. I'm sure that you're very eager to learn from the seasoned veterans on this commission. And anything you like, feel free to reach out to any of us for any helping hand, any advice, any different approaches, any different, park and rec lifestyles that you want to learn from. Feel free and do not hesitate. And thank you for stepping up and looking to serve as a youth.
Thank you. Yeah, I will definitely keep in touch with Hannah, who could potentially relay information to you all, as well as in addition to just listening in and seeing what you guys are doing. So thank you.
Say one word, just always wonderful to have the voice of the youth. So please continue, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll join the commission in welcoming you. This world is gonna be yours tomorrow. And we're certainly very glad that you are with us today. Because perhaps we're not gonna be here tomorrow, but you'll be pretty well grounded in terms of the work that we've done and the works that still needs to get done. I think we've had a good relationship with the Youth Commission. I think Commissioner Mene and I at one point did attend one of you. I think it was an open house, so you got to meet commissioners from other commissions in the county, and I think we were there. And I think we had pretty good dialogue, and I hope at some point that does happen again, so as far as that's something we could take back to the Youth Commission. And for me, ultimately, really talking about you inheriting tomorrow, I'd really would like to see, and this is just wishful thinking at this point, because at some point I'd like to bring it to the commission so we can talk about it. The possibility of really having a joint meeting, with the Youth Commission, to discuss things that may be of mutual interest. And so I'm sure the Vice Mayor will probably want to add a few words, say a few things.
Yeah, hi, Colin, nice to meet you. I was thinking along the same lines. I mean, we would love to hear what the Youth Commission would like, or what the youth would like to tell the Parks, Commission about your experiences with parks or what you need to know. And I would love to see us consider doing something joint, and maybe it's actually inviting you to a meeting in our parks. So we can really leverage each other's efforts and passions that way. So thank you so much.
Great. Well, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'll open it up to public comment. Anybody?
Am I on?
No, this is for item, what was item 7.1, on the
Youth
agenda.
Commission liaison.
And I do not see any hands raised in Zoom for comment for this item, and I don't have any speaker slips.
Okay, that being the case, again, welcome. And please do stay with us as long as you can. And so, then could we go to the Parks Foundation report? Michelle, good to see you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Four things I want to share through our event. If you don't have it on your calendar, Fall Fest will be next Saturday, October 12th, from 2 to 5 at Quarry Park. I think it's the first time. So it should be a smaller version of Summerfest, but probably very lovely. So everyone's welcome to attend. And then 2 events in the past, we had a salsa recipe contest at Friendship Park. I think it was 2 Fridays ago, and we had 6 of the gardeners who have garden plots there come with up to 4 different salsas. So it was really wonderful, and we provided food. And when I arrived, the entire park was just like filled with people, and the playground was completely filled with kids. So it was a really wonderful event, and it's going to be an annual event. So hopefully you guys can come next year to taste some salsa. And then,
Which one did you like?
oh my gosh, I was a terrible judge.
Can you dance is the question.
Well, no, this was definitely a lot of, chips and salsa. So they were all delicious and quite a spectrum of flavors. So it's hard to compare mango habanero to other, so it was really good. And then we were a proud sponsor of the Voices of Recovery annual picnic. September is Recovery Month, and they have their picnic at Coyote Point. And so that is also an annual event that we're happy to support. They used to have their event at Central Park in San Mateo, and it was a very stressful park event in terms of parking. So we support their parking and everything else at Coyote Point. And then the fourth thing I wanted to mention is that Open Road, the current season has wrapped up, but I will be having conversations with their team in the next couple of weeks. So they're already thinking ahead to the 2025 season. So we did a feel-good youth story focusing on the kids who advocated for the Flood Park pump track. So it'd be nice to continue doing some of those types of stories. So I'm just planting a little seed. So if any of you guys have any thoughts, I mean, maybe it's Tanitas Creek Beach, but any thoughts about what should be profiled on Open Road next year, I would love to hear. So yeah, especially from you, Nicholas, but from all of you. So that's my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Any members of the public?
I don't have any speaker slips for this item, and I don't see any hands raised for public comment.
Okay, so we should go to the department update.
Chair Killer, I think we skipped item 3, which was general public comment on non-agenda items. So we might want to do that before we move on to the Parks Foundation update.
Okay, thank you for reminding me of that. So any public comments outside of items that are currently on the agenda?
Yeah, just to clarify, yeah, this is for items not on the agenda. I do not have any speaker slips for general public comment. And I'm not seeing any hands raised for.
Thank you for reminding me of that. So could we go then to the department update?
Yeah, just a few things to highlight for the commission. First, last week, the Board of Supervisors adopted a resolution to formally rename Tanitas Creek Beach Don Horsley County Park. And this was an effort that was led directly by Supervisor Slocum and Supervisor Mueller, and really reflects an entire life of dedication to the residents of this county, both or as a teacher, a police officer, a sheriff, a member of a health district board, and a supervisor. So while I am obviously biased, having worked for Supervisor Horsley for 5 years, I can't think of someone who's more deserving of such an honor. And ultimately, that property would not be public property. And the experience that people will have over the life of that property would not have happened if it were not for this leadership. So really, really honored to be able to be part of that. We have two projects that you all know much about, one being Flood Park, one being Tunis Creek Beach. Both are scheduled to be open this calendar year. Tunis Creek Beach, we are really pushing for a opening in late December. And we think that we will be able to make that timeline, with the caveat, obviously, that if we get some nasty rains, that could slow things down, push us into early 2025. But we're really pushing hard to get that property open to the public, and we've been talking about it for a really long time now. And so so we really want to be able to kind of get that going. I was out there not too long ago, and it is just looking absolutely beautiful. And I can tell you, the overlooks and the views you get from the parking lot, the path you take down to the mid bluff, the amphitheater, it's all just spectacular. And I really do think this is going to be the most beautiful and welcoming beach on the San Mateo County coast. And then Flood Park, we are scheduled for half of phase 1 to open in November, and the half that will open are the all-season sports facilities. So the multi-use sports field, the tennis pickleball court, the sand volleyball courts, the basketball court, and the parking lot. So those are set to open this year. The rest of the park that is being worked on right now will not open till early 25, and largely because of the push to get these amenities open this year, but also a bulk of the other area is going to be largely landscaped areas and grasses. So we need to give time for that to germinate, and recognizing that if you open it, people are going to do what you should do at a park, which is play and have fun. But that's going to also set us back on the seeding process. So we'll open half in November, and then the other half will open up in early 2025. And we'll have ourselves a nice little party at both of those dates. And then I think that's ultimately, I think that the biggest things that we're pushing towards right now. On a general note, we are going to start getting ready to winterize parks. So we are fastly approaching the October 15th date, which is kind of the official start of rain season. Go outside, it certainly doesn't feel that way, but we still use that as our calendar date. And so we're working just to make sure we're getting our parks ready. Over the last 2 years, we've had some pretty damaging winters. And so we need to make sure we're clearing our ditches, clearing our culverts, and getting the parks ready to the extent we can. Hannah, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think anything major in addition to what's included in there. Yeah, no, I don't think so.
We're happy to answer any questions.
Any comments, questions to the director? My fellow commissioners?
Thank you, through the chair. On the Tunis Creek Beach Park, could you refresh my memory about how many parking spots are going to be available there?
60. So there'll be 60 formal parking spaces. There is going to be a dirt lot that'll be used for oversized vehicles. So if someone comes with a bus or a really large RV, they'll be directed to park there. It's not intended to be an overnight parking space. It's really intended to be an oversized vehicle parking space, and then 60 standard stalls.
And are we anticipating having a permanent ranger station there, or is it gonna be the South Coast staff kind of
So Tunitas or Don Horsley County Park is part of District 4, which is the mid-coast Pacifica, that area. So they're not coming out from Memorial Park. We have structured it to be a direct report location, so we're gonna open with the intent of is having people directly report there. We'll have vehicles there. We have a ranger station there that has computers and equipment and everything we need, recognizing they will need to go back and forth from the main district headquarters of Pacifica. We're gonna try that out. We're gonna see how that works, and we'll adjust accordingly. This is kind of in this weird district dead zone because it's in between two districts, and we don't have all the space necessary to put a full courtyard there. So we're gonna try this out and we'll make adjustments to operations as we need.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Question for Tanitas, and just a comment also, just overjoyed to hear how beautiful it's turning out. I'm super excited to see it. I was cycling by the construction on the one a few weekends ago and
Yeah.
we wanted to pull in, but it's really well fenced off. So
Yeah.
well, there's not a safe way to really take a gander.
No.
But I'm excited to see it. In terms of amenities for folks cruising by on bicycles, is there running water, stuff like that for water bottle fills? No, nothing like that.
There's no water, right now, we don't have water on site. So historically, there was a spring that fed the property. The spring was lost during a landslide. And so we searched everywhere high and low. We weren't able to find it. So yeah,
Okay, well, maybe the spring will reemerge someday.
that would be nice. That'd be really nice.
Good, thank you.
You know, as commissioners, we always look forward to seeing what the county does, what the department does, what allocation of funding comes, where it's distributed. And although we have 2 more meetings remaining, and I think our chair can speak highly regarding just some highlights that we've endured for the better in this 2024 year. I think having visited Corey Park and having the entire coast and El Granada and Half Moon Bay coming to visit and young children and the entire community kind of came out and showed up. Commissioner Block was not able to attend the semi baby launching of the groundbreaking of what Flood Park looks like. I think those are 2 in my mind that stick out as some of the most accomplished. And maybe you can comment on why sometimes it takes longer from whether you know, signed off budgets to where money is pushed over from the state to the county to the respective cities. So I think given that we still have November and December remaining for the rest of this year, I think in my most humble opinion, 2 highlighted remarkable events that we've been able to be part of in this commission for the 24 year will probably be Corey Park, and then by and large, we all had a great time in the August in Menlo Park. That was probably 2 of the best things that I think the commission will probably speak in unison about that, but I think those are the 2 that stuck out in my mind.
Thank you very much for the report. I do have a few comments. I knew Don Hostler when he was the police. He was just
Sure.
police officer before he became sheriff. I've known him for a very long time. And so naming Needles Creek County Park after him, I think it's certainly more than appropriate, at least in my mind. And it's not surprising to me that by the slow come and Supervisor Wheeler, spearheaded that effort, to get that done. So I think it's extremely appropriate. I'm very happy that both of those parks are gonna have some tenable, before the end of the year, weather permitting. And so, but whenever they do, I think it's gonna be an extra. amazing addition to what Suffolk County and myself of San Mateo offers in terms of park. On Coyote Point Recreation Area, I know the data is being tabulated. I'm certainly looking forward to see, what people are saying as to what are some of the things that they may want to see. And thank goodness we didn't have any fires this year. But I know there's certain parts of California where, there were fires and people had to be evacuated and so on and so forth. So, it's been a good year. Thank you so much for the attachment on all the activities, that we've done in the districts, they've happened. And just realizing there are multiple pages, these activities sort of makes you feel that the department is extremely active in engaging the community in terms of the fulfillment of our mission. And then finally, this is a comment that I probably should have made several times before, but this is ultimately gonna be the very, very first time. Our responsibility as a commission is to advise the county board of supervisors on issues pertaining, to parks, open space, recreation, obviously the Fish and Game Fund, so we have something talking about that today's agenda. And, providing a very transparent forum for items to get on the agenda and for items to be discussed, with the public present. And so knowing that, I would like to ask the question to my fellow commissioners. So we've received this departmental reports ever so frequently. So is there anything that comes out of the report that we need to take another bite into, to be able to advise the board of, to make any recommendation to the board of supervisors as to, what else, what needs to get done, what policies need to be put in place and so on and so forth. So I would like to urge the commission that when we get this report, let's keep that in mind, because our role is really to advise. The department is doing excellent work, I think. And we can certainly applaud them for that publicly. But it's the county manager that's really supervises. So all this good work is gonna be presented to the board of supervisors. And the board of supervisors is gonna so they react to it in the way to be expected. For us, every time we do get these reports and every time we do interact with the public, there are things that sort of come up that would make us think, that there's some additional things that we need to advise the board of supervisors to do in whatever particular area. So I want us to really, look out for, for those things. And so, given that, we can open it to the public. Any public requests to speak on the department's report?
I do not have any speaker slips for the department update, and I am not seeing any hands raised in Zoom for public comment.
Okay, so that gives us permission to definitely move on. So let's go to the regular agenda. We've dealt with 7.1. And we can go to 7.2, which is a recommendation on the Fish and Game Propagation Fund appropriation. This is an action item. The committee and the committee staff and some members of our commission met over a period of time, reviewed all of the applications, and they're presenting us with very specific recommendations as which entities need to be funded and need to be funded at what level. And so hopefully, everybody has had an opportunity to look at those recommendations, and our staffs can briefly, walk us through, do a quick summary, and then we can have some deliberation and get some public input for adoption.
So, as the commissioner recall, in the April, meeting, a new process and guidelines for soliciting applications and requests for funding was adopted by the commission. And the department published those grant guidelines, those application guidelines, and made a call for projects in July of this year. And that was open for 1 month. We made that information available on our website. We also distributed to partners and agencies and groups that we anticipated that would have interest or eligibility for the funding. And through that process, by the August closing date, the department received 5 applications. And the evaluation committee that reviewed that was comprised of myself, Director Calderon, and Commissioner Rodriguez-Mitten. And so we had met earlier in September to review those applications. The evaluation guidelines were also published as part of the information made available for this process. And so those evaluation guidelines were used to score and assess the applications received. And ultimately, the recommendation before the commission today would be to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that funding is allocated to 4 of the 5 applicants. San Bruno Mountain Watch for their rare, threatened, and endangered plant propagation project in the amount of $11,500 from the fund, to the San Mateo County Parks Foundation Memorial Park Nature Center Interpretive Media Project in the amount of $15,000 from the Fish and Game Fund, to the San Mateo Resource Conservation District for their pit tag antenna array project at Memorial County Park in the amount of $22,156.16 from the Fish and Game Fund, and to Vida Verde Nature Education for their environmental education experience camping program in the amount of $10,000 from the Fish and Game Fund. And the 5th application received was from Steve Kennedy for the Cannonball Express video project. However, the evaluation committee determined that the application was incomplete as part of the guidelines provided required the submittal of a signed grant application form and a signed proposed project budget, as well as a confirmation of at least 50% matching funding to support the project. And those items were not included in the application or and so because of that, it was determined that the minimum qualifications for that application were not met, and that the evaluation committee doesn't support our recommendation to award funding for that project. And if there are any questions about more of the details of any of the projects, there is a brief summary of that in the recommendation memo, but I'm happy to provide a brief summary verbally as well if desired.
Great. Could we, I'd really like to have 2 discussions, 2 separate discussions by the commission. The first one, I think I'd like to suggest that we respond to staff's recommendation have some discussion before we open it up to the public. And after the public has its say so, then I'd like us to reconvene and do further discussion if necessary. Before formally making the recommendation as to what's to go to. Does that sound okay? Yeah. So given that, so what is the pleasure of the commission? Up to what has been presented to us?
You are incoming new leaders to the commission. I find it that you have two seasoned veterans who have been here on the commission for many years. He's been here longer. We'd like to hear some fresh blood, fresh opportunities from the newest commissioners to this commission.
Do you wanna go ahead?
I'll follow your lead.
Well,
Okay.
as part of the Fish and Game Fund Subcommittee, our goal was to set out clear criteria for dispersing these funds. And make sure the process was an equal playing field. And also to move the funds out of where they were sitting and actually put them to their intended use. According to California Fish and Game Code. So I feel like the process we set up met all of those goals. And that in evaluating these proposals, because we had done that homework and we had a very clear application, it was very, simple. We had a clear scoring criteria. It was very gratifying, I guess, to see the proposals come in and be able to match those two things. The process to me, which is not to say we can't iterate on it and tweak on it based on feedback that we received this year. But for this year, I think I was really happy that the process moved along very quickly. We got great applications and yeah, I'm excited to see the funds flow out to the people doing really good work in the community.
That's wonderful. I am just overjoyed that we have so much interest, that we had 5, good applications and that we're able to disperse those funds to some groups that are really going to promote our environmental awareness, I think, which is a wonderful thing. And I wish our youth commissioner could still be here, because as I read through these again, I'm thinking, hey, this is one really great area where the youth commissioners might want to link in, because these are bite-sized projects. They're tangible, they're manageable, they're not, multi-year projects necessarily, and so they might be a good resource for the youth. I think that might be an interesting thing to consider down the road. And I was also just encouraged to see all the nice matching funds. So if our amount, if we kick in a certain amount, the match is, triple that in the cases, and that's wonderful. So we can kind of help catalyze a really nice thing.
Two great comments by our vice chair and our commissioner from District 2 in speaking highly regards to where we are headed and to where these funds are going. And it's somewhat in perspective, like let's say you have a new general manager, a new owner, new someone that's taken the helm of a team. And you're finally saying, all right, we finally got someone that knows what they're doing and has a talent, and people want to come now, and you have a joy. So I really think that's where the upcoming year of 2025, where there's a lot of great things that are going to be happening according to what Chair Calderon, to Director Calderon, to what Nicholas was speaking of. And I really think that things are veering into the right direction and not the wrong direction. I think we've got some good people on this commission. We've got a really, really strong foundation of where these funds are going. And I think we're really headed to the right direction. And there's a lot of exciting things that I'm hopeful for the 2025 year.
We've come a long way. Because there was a time that these funds were being dispersed because we just got an application, we got to establish the process. So if there's any one thing that this commission has achieved in the last, in this year, with, orchestrating a process, a fair process, a very open process that ended up generating five. Because I think before we used to just get one person, one organization apply for, and they got the funding because they met the requirement. So I think, that's something worth noting. And when I applaud the vice chair, because she definitely took leadership on it. And piloted this whole thing up to this very point. I do have a few comments, and one may just be, I don't know what I would call it, step, whatever. So there are 5 organizations: the San Bruno Mountain Watch, the San Mateo Parks Foundation, the San Mateo Resource Conservation District, Steve Kennedy's Temple Express Project, Vida Verde, and Nature Education. And Vida Verde, San Mateo Resource Conservation, San Mateo County Parks Foundation, and San Bruno Mountain Watch. In their recommendation, in the language leading to their recommendation, there's a paragraph that states that this project is eligible for funding under California Fish Game Code section, this and that and the other. In the Steve Kennedy proposal, that paragraph does not exist. And so is that in any way suggesting, that the application did not qualify under whatever the appropriate section of the legislation is? And that's why we don't have that paragraph in the recommendation so far as Steve Kennedy, because all of the other proposals have that paragraph that says this project qualifies, is eligible. But in the Steve Kennedy, that paragraph is not there. So is that something that should have been there, but just somehow did not make it there? Or are we indirectly saying that in terms of looking at whether that project was eligible or not, it wasn't? So that's one of the reasons that it got denied. So that, that's definitely, one question, I'd like to present to staff and to my colleague, the evaluation committee.
Yeah, because the evaluation committee had determined that essentially the minimum qualifications for the application itself, having missing information, clearly states in the beginning, each project application must include these 4 items or will not be accepted, and 2 of those were not provided. It also clearly states in the application materials that 50% matching funding is required, and because that was not guaranteed in the application, for those reasons, the evaluation committee determined that the application was incomplete, and therefore the other statement of eligibility per the Fish and Game Code item was not included because we did not recommend funding because the application itself was incomplete.
So for me, in my mind, those 2 items are separate. So the first question, when you receive the application, you ask yourself, is this application eligible for funding given the legislation? That's the first question. Yes or no? And if you establish that no, it's not eligible, then you say we're not even gonna look at it. Okay? Then 2, then you ask yourself, okay, it's eligible, and now we have some set forth requirements. that they've gotta be this, there's gotta be, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta provide this, you gotta have matching funds and so on and so forth. And you can still disqualify the proposal if they don't meet those requirements. You can still do that, okay? So for me, you know, the fact that that paragraph was not included in that sort of implies to me that a determination was made that they did not have eligibility.
As part of the evaluation committee, the application asks the applicant to tell us which part of the code describes their project. And that is what we looked at to see if it was available for funding under that code. So if the application did not tell us that, we had nothing to verify. In other words, the other applicants said, we believe we're eligible for this, and we could verify that they were in fact eligible under subsection A or subsection G.
Okay, so then that's
So because we had a lack of information,
right.
that paragraph is not
Okay.
in the description because it wasn't there.
Okay, so the expectation then was every application had to indicate their eligibility. They had to indicate, okay, we are eligible as per this subsection of the law. So is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I
So-
mean, if
so
you
that-
recall from the
Just
evaluation criteria
just let me finish, please. Thank you. Just let me finish. And so that we could not independently determine by reading the application, you can say, oh, does this application qualify? Is it eligible or not? We could not independently do that. We wanted the applicant to tell us that this proposal is given this specific section. And the reason I'm saying that is this. The reason I'm saying that is this proposal does not represent the very first time we've had Steve Kennedy come to this commission. Steve Kennedy has come to this commission for over a year now. And Steve Kennedy has repeatedly insisted that his project qualified under very specific sections. Now, a very, very specific section of the legislation. He's indicated that several times. Okay, and so that's the background to my question. Okay, because it not being there, I thought. Thank you so much for the clarification. That particular section in each of the other proposals is put there because the applicant indicated that we qualify because of this subsection of the legislation. Yeah, and Steve Kennedy did not. Okay. But we've heard, I mean, if we had minutes, meetings, records, we can go back and see there were several situations where he stood up here and said, you know, you need to look at commission, you need to look at this, we qualify under this section. And there's some emails even to that effect. And so that's my dilemma. Yes.
if I may, through the chair. So, the application materials do indicate the Fish and Game Code section. It notes 13-103A. However, through the adopted grant guidelines, the evaluation criteria were published. So it was clear to the applicants what information was being sought in order to make a competitive or clear proposal. So all of those details were provided in the evaluation criteria, which does include clearly identifying how the project meets the intent of applicable sections of the California Fish and Game Code section. There are also a document of grant guidelines which go into more detail on types of projects that those include. However, in terms of the evaluation committee's determination, because the first portion of the application materials clearly outlines everything that needs to be received for the application. And the 50% matching funds being required were not included, as well as the signed grant application form, the completed and signed project budget form. The department and the evaluation committee determined the application incomplete.
That's sufficient for me, but I think I found myself obligated to raise that point. Because there was you know, something.
Remain.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. As an evaluator, my care was to, when we started this process, was to make sure the playing field was level. And so despite whatever we'd heard from any other sources about any of these organizations, we needed to evaluate the applications on their own merit based on day one of when we started the new process, this new process. So we, from my point of view, it would have been bias of me to have said, oh, we have this past history with this application. To take that into account in evaluating the actual application received.
But I would counter that by simply saying, I'm not looking at this as past history. I'm looking at this as we have Fish and Game Code. Okay, as an independent. So any application, regardless whether they quote a section or not, we can compare what they want to do with that code. And we can independently make the determination that they're eligible to be considered. Now, we have enough, if the application was incomplete in other areas, which it was, then that would be enough justification not to even consider the process. Because there were some specific things that were asked in terms of matching funds, which were not provided. You see what I'm saying? So we had reason just from these other parts to, to say, no, we're not gonna consider this, we're not gonna recommend this. Because the application was incomplete. For me, what stood out for me was that if I was asked to ask the staff now, given what was indicated in our proposal as to what they wanted to use the funds for, and given the Fish and Game Code, is it eligible?
I don't know if this helps your consideration of this. There's a procedural piece and a substantive piece to this application, right? And in county contracting and county procurement and county request for proposals, the initial sort of threshold analysis is whether a bid is responsive. And so when somebody responds to a request for proposals for county procurement, if they don't provide all of the information that is requested, the bid that isn't even opened in the first instance. That's like a procedural piece. And my understanding of kind of what's been explained in this process is that there were these threshold procedural pieces of certain information and documents and things like that that needed to be submitted with the application. And because those pieces weren't submitted, the application was essentially non-responsive, which is why you don't then get to the next instance or piece of actually looking at the substance of the application to determine like which, you actually look into it and see what's the proposal itself, what are all of the things. That's, and I don't know if that helps it kind of that explanation kind of helps with an understanding of why this went the way it did. That's my understanding of this process. And so because the committee essentially determined that the application was not responsive because it had not provided everything that was required by the guidelines, the committee never, I think, got as far as evaluating the specific substance, including looking, for example, at whether the project did in fact meet that specific fish and game code section that was identified by the applicant as the game section. Because I think that's something that the committee then did for applications that were responsive, is said, okay, here's what they're proposing to do. Here's the fish and game code section that they've identified. And is that an appropriate use of funds under that specific fish and game code section? I don't know if that helps. I think that I tend to think about these things a little bit differently. Blame it on my training.
You know, well, that helps, that helps, you know, that helps. And so we determined that the proposal was incomplete, and so we, you know, the evaluation committee did not give it any further consideration. Is that the right interpretation of what transpired? Okay, great.
I mean, I will add, I
Great.
mean, again, not to speak, I think the other piece, right, was you only had so much money to give out. And so.
Right. So I get that. But I found myself obligated to pose the question. Okay, any other comments from the commission?
Chair O'Kello, so where are we on this now? Is it come to a moment where obviously there's certain money that's distributed? So I don't know where, if this is gonna remain like to be continued, or it's like an incomplete, like a homework assignment, or are we closing out any further discussion for future?
No, we're moving on this one.
Yeah, that's what
We're gonna either approve the recommendations of staff and the evaluation committee or not, and it's gonna go to the board of supervisors.
That's where I am,
You know.
that's where I think I am
Yeah,
aligned
yeah,
with.
so he's gonna go, and the board of supervisors are gonna make the decision, and the funds are gonna get dispersed.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to discuss. I think I'm on board and
Okay.
we're on the same thought process of where it's headed. Now it's gonna be turned over to the BOS, to the Board of Supervisors, and let them, you know, the ball's in their court, and, you know, they have to
Yeah.
see what direction they're going with it.
And they can agree with our recommendations, or they cannot. So it's, you know, they have that jurisdiction. So given that, are there any public comments?
Yes, there is a public comment from Steve Kennedy.
And I'd like to do a clawback here. This
Mr.
is
Kennedy,
my-
can you just wait until they've asked you to start the public comment, please?
Sure.
The clock hasn't started. Just give a sec.
Steve, you can start your comment.
Okay, this is an unabridged copy of my proposal. It was, acknowledged by, Nick Calderon. It's got a wet signature on it. Okay,
Actually, we don't need that. We really don't need that.
section two.
You know, we really don't need that.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what.
This is my 2 minutes.
Okay, it's 2 minutes. We can give you extra time.
Okay.
Anytime that I
So,
say,
yes,
you can get some more.
I have described how this proposal, okay, meets the qualifications of section 1303A, whereby money is available for videos about the scientific principles of conservation designed for formal supervised curriculum. Okay, I have created that video script. You know, actually, naturally, I have come to the conclusion that this commission never misses an opportunity to miss an opportunity, because you had a blank slate here to make comments, criticisms, suggestions, and none were taken. Okay, because I don't need your money. I've put $100,000 into this proposal development in the past 30 years. I'm asking for 5. Okay, this is a $1 trillion environmental issue. Okay, I just corresponded yesterday with Nancy McGee, who's superintendent of schools. She's acknowledged that she's talked to me. By regulation, she cannot to give me any official support. She can't write a letter of endorsement, but she has acknowledged and given me a confirmation that we have talked. She's looked at the materials, okay? Now, I want you all to say, okay, Boomer. My family just sold 16 Claremont Court, a 5-bedroom house in the Millbrae Meadows for $2.53 million. I'm gonna get a third of that. I can make this video
But you're gonna
15
take,
times.
we're gonna give you 15 more seconds, because I took some of your time, so we're giving you 15 more seconds and that's it.
out of my back pocket 15 times. I appreciate your support, Commissioner Taylor, and you're right. This proposal was abridged and you never saw the relevant portions. And, you know, my proposal was raped. Okay, but I'm gonna make this video anyway. And you've forfeited an opportunity to comment, criticize, make suggestions. I would have cheerfully changed the script. In fact, I changed the script months ago at the demand of
Your
Nick
time-
Calderon.
Your time is up.
Thank
Thank you. Thank
So-
you. Thank you so much. Your
You're
time-
welcome.
your
It's
time
gonna
is
get
up.
made anyway.
Yeah,
I'll
your
come
time is
back
up.
for reimbursement in a couple of months
Time.
and you can take a look at it, make sure it meets the values and standards of the Parks Commission. Thank you very much for your time.
Any other members of the public?
I see no hands raised.
I'm forced to. I don't know what I should call it, a point of information. But something in that direction. Mr. Steve Kennedy applied for funding before we had a process. We eventually established a process. And we communicated with everyone that we are in the process of establishing a process. So we can have a clean, fair, open field for everybody. And I think we made that clear. And we did that. We set up a timeline. We sent out requests for proposal. And we did not give anybody different information. We did not give this applicant this information, another applicant, or everybody got the same information. So everybody was clear as what was required. What was required to be part of this process. So most of the applicants met those requirements. And so if somebody made the assumption that because they've been working and presenting this to the commission for the last year, that we were ultimately gonna take that into the consideration of evaluating the proposal, then that's a wrong assumption that I made. And I don't want my earlier statements to be misunderstood. My earlier statement was basically, you have a code. Fish and game code. It's a question of eligibility. So does every person who applies, are they eligible? But in terms of our process, I do understand that they first you see whether you meet the basic requirements. All your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed. And if the I's are not dotted and the T's are not crossed, then your application is put on the side. Okay, and so just a point of information. So hopefully next time if an agency apply, because these funds are gonna be dispersed again in the future. Now that we have established a process, please follow the process. Just follow the process. Just follow the process.
Sure,
Yes.
really quick, Cheryl Kello, I know time is very of the essence. The light bulb went on and look. I have no irregard or I have no disregard to Mr. Kennedy. I'm sure he, is a great person that puts a lot of process into this and does his research, and this is passionate to him. But I think, and I'm not gonna say I took it personal, because none of us had any ill regard to your projects, and I don't know whether I can, jump rope and go on the school courtyard and play jump rope, but I was a little disturbed by you saying that your project was raped. I really, that's not a good word.
You want to see it? It's
Look,
here.
I'm
It's
just
here. I'm
not,
telling you what it is.
okay, I get that, but I'm not comfortable with that word used here in a public meeting.
There are pedophiles in Hollywood. I'm not one of them.
We're not gonna go down that road. I just didn't agree with the choice of words. Maybe a better choice of word could have been, because we didn't just look at you and say, you know what? We're just gonna go to the dumpster and it's garbage night and we're just gonna put you to the side. Cause that was never the case.
Where's the rest of my proposal? Here it is.
Excuse me, let's limit those interactions. Now is the commission's turn to speak. And so you've had your word, so just
So
let the commission speak. Thank you.
in the future, and I hope that you do continue to be an observant member of the public and that you're passionate about what you do, but I just, I'm not saying it's a personal attack. We just feel, and I'm not being the spokesperson on this commission, I'm just saying that we, okay, so we didn't approve the money and you're saying you can get this money and that you're gonna come back with this. I'm just saying, a lot of us might appreciate what you do, but it just so happened that you didn't get the money from our recommendation, but now it's gonna be in the hands of the Board of Supervisors. I've got nothing against you at all. So just let's make that clear. But it's just, I found it a little concerning using some of those phrase words that I'm just gonna leave it at that. I wish you the best of luck and continue to do your activities and maybe enrich your passion for this subject matter. That's, just gonna leave it at that.
Commissioner Manny, thank you. So are we ready to move on this? Or what is the pleasure of the commission? Is anybody ready and willing to make a motion on this?
I had just one other question
Okay.
for the commission, and I think for those who are reviewing, were there, for the ones that were approved, that had actually met all the minimum criteria and therefore were able to be considered and then approved, were there any other considerations or concerns in those review processes, or you felt like all four of those are ready to go on? And not to put you guys on the spot, that was just, want to make sure we're good on those.
I felt that each of the respondents answered our questions fully, completely. That the projects were very strong in terms of thoughtfully presented in terms of budgets and the effort required and how it would be impact they would have, the positive impact they would have. I know that, you know, we county's normal procedures, because this is a reimbursement grant, basically, that there will be evidence is required to be presented, right? That yes, we successfully installed the fish tracking antenna, right? So that I have full confidence that these funds are actually not going to be dispersed until the projects are completed. So we have a metric of success. So yeah, I felt, and certainly I think that we can tweak the process next time, right? Some answers were longer than others, so maybe we want to consider changing the application. Some, you know, so maybe those kinds of things that the committee will talk about next year when we gather to hopefully reconvene and have more funds to disperse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for that, because, I mean, based on that, I feel, you know, very comfortable with the process, and I really want to commend the commission for having designed a process so that we could really have a true level playing field where we could review all applications without bias, and then really allocate these funds appropriately, which it looks to me like we've done with our recommendations. So, I mean, I feel comfortable with what's proposed here.
So, I'm willing to accept a motion as to what we should do.
Through the chair, I move that the commission approve the recommendation of the Fish and Game Propagation Fund Subcommittee to forward these recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for their approval and award the funds as detailed in the staff's memo of October 3rd.
I will gladly second that.
And so should we take, just a voice vote, or should we call out everybody's vote?
We can just do those in favor.
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those not in favor say nay. None. Any abstentions? Thank you. Go to the next item, item 7.3.
Yeah, sorry. You're good.
Amend, Mateo County Parks Commission meeting scheduled for the November meeting at Don Horsley County Park at Toledo's Creek Beach and at an alternate time. And so this is also an action item, and this really because this meeting was supposed to be over here, but we had to change it because there was this discussion on this awarding the grants, and we felt, since the public would not participate, at least electronically, over there, it was important that we have a change. In a place where they could physically come, which participate too. So if there's some discussion on this, then we can open it up for discussion among the commission.
It's clear that, or it appears that the November meeting will be we will be convening at Half Moon Bay in Tanitas.
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to point out that it is proposed that meeting begins at 3 p.m. because of the early darkness in November.
It starts to get dark.
So I just want to make sure that our commissioners know that it will require us
Thank you.
to be in
I
attendance at
think
3 p.m.
the staff and the directors and those senior leadership will probably make it really clear to the public, to those wanting to attend, like 1,000 flash bulbs, like 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and not 4. So I hope that we, get that communicated, because I think we have excited members of,
Commissioner, we gotta
Committee.
take this action first.
Yeah.
And we can talk about how we're gonna, implement the action. So it's been moved and it's been, actually, we just discussed that we have not opened it to the public yet. But we gotta open it to the public, see what the public
See what
have
they
their
have.
comments, right?
I'm not seeing any hands raised in Zoom for comment on this item.
Okay, so that being the case, so a motion has been made, we will confirm the second.
second that
Okay, so
motion.
all in favor, could I hear a big loud aye?
Aye.
All opposed, I wanna hear a big loud nay. Did you hear how loud that was?
It's like when a doctor says open,
Okay, so unanimous that we're gonna do this. Okay, perfect.
Confirming the date, that's the 7th of November at 3 p.m.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're ready to move to item 7.4. I wanted this item added to our meeting. I think we've had discussions along the edges of this issue in the past. you know, but I'd wanted us to at some point contemplate really creating some protocols so that the public does know that if they raise an issue, that there's a process in which if they raise the issue at the commission meeting, there's a process in which the commission, there's a process the commission follows, you know, to grapple with that issue. And that process would also include some sort of time frame. So that they cannot raise the issue and we tell them 6 months from now, we're gonna get to it. You know, so we have a time frame that we certainly consider as reasonable. And at least have the item, you know, on the commission's agenda so that the public would have an opportunity to, you know, to have some discussion on it. And so that's really what I wanted us to, you know, to talk about. And the particular issue that sort of inspired this was the flooding of the Quarry Pond. And obviously the very fact that, you know, yes, Quarry Park falls within the parks you know, the department's park system. But at the same time, there are certain maintenance and upkeep issues so that the department has no control over. We have a relationship with Public Works, and so Public Works, the expectation of the Public Works is gonna take care of certain things. But the public may not necessarily understand. So they think if they bring it to the commission and they bring it to the complaint to the department, that something is gonna happen, and something is gonna happen. So time frame. So I think there's a lot of education that perhaps, you know, has to happen, you know, but at the same time, if it's been brought to our commission, then we're obligated to deal with it. And even publicly say that, you know, this is not our responsibility. This is a responsibility of another department. You know, we can help you, we can help facilitate you linking up with that department and getting the issue resolved. That may be an option. The other thing that I was thinking about is that we need to know this thing. So we need at some point, perhaps you can invite somebody from Public Works who can tell us, okay, there's something that Public Works needs to do at the park, you know, and they tell us, okay, well, what's the process? How does that get handled? You know, how long does it take? It may be a life and death issue, but flooding, you never know. With flooding, you really never know. And so how does Public Works deal with those kinds of things? So at least even for us, we are informed, you know, and we can inform the public, you know. And so that's really the genesis of this. So how should we handle public comments that need some action? And what protocols should this commission put in place that we can disseminate to the public that tells them, yes, you brought the issue. We're gonna do this with it, and it's gonna be on agenda this time.
Chair, through the chair, I think you make some really key highlighted points, and it's really crucial with a very important location, site, and key issues. From studying a little bit of, you know, even before coming onto this commission, what it is we actually do and who are the important players. So other counties and other cities and major cities do collaborate with other department heads, as you mentioned, Park and Rec, with DPW, with other key planning commissions and to see what are the important factors that we could bring forth to make this very easy, very painless, and just kind of collaborate and with being on the same page together. So I think those are some really, really important issues, important key highlights that you speak of.
Chair, I agree. I would love to have a process that we can articulate to the public with some assurity that we are hearing them.
Right.
And I like the idea of trying to establish a time frame for returning, revisiting the issues. My questions are really like, how much can we as the commission ask? Or what questions should we ask? And, where is our role in identifying who'd be responsible for the actual, some things may be just a matter of information. Someone asks, why is this happening? And then the staff comes back in a month or so and says, this is why that's happening. The work is scheduled. Here's who's doing it. That's easy to answer, but there may be other questions that are not so clear to answer. And I want to be careful that we as a commission don't overpromise that we can impact a solution that is probably beyond, much more complicated than that's within our realm. So what would be a satisfying outcome of having this process? Would it simply be at the following meeting to do a recap of saying, we heard this issue and we referred it to this department for resolution? We heard this issue and here's the information you requested. Would that be something that you could envision as an outcome?
No, I think what I'd envision as an outcome is basically this. They raise it, we met out there, they raise it. We come back, we interface with staff, because the staff is what links us with the entire mega mart, the county mega mart, okay? And so the staff would tell us that, this is what needs to happen with this particular issue. Yeah, either we need, there's some other department that's responsible for it, and the department can say, we're gonna interface with that department, and this is what's gonna happen. That's easy, so we can put it on the agenda at the next meeting, and that's what we communicate. That's what we communicate, that this is as a result of this request, this is the most immediate resolution that we can give to it. And we can still decide we're gonna keep it on the agenda just to update. So if it was referred to Public Works, then we need to at some point figure out at what point is Public Works gonna take some action. I don't know whether there's a Public Works Commission. There isn't. And so they came to us. The moment it comes to us, it becomes our baby. Whether it belongs to us or not, it becomes our baby. It becomes our problem, and we need to figure out how the county is gonna deal with it. And perhaps this is also a pretty good avenue. Because when we go to the Board of Supervisors and make a report, we can say, we have these little challenges, but we can't do that before we deal with it at the staff level. Okay, that this is some challenges we have. Public Works has responsibility for this. There's no Public Works Commission. They come to the Parks and Rec Commission. You say, and it becomes our baby, and you're gonna figure out how to. Because since the flooding also impacts our parks, so we have a direct interest.
Over here.
Yes.
Sure. So I appreciate this very much because we are the conduit, right, of the public and the supervisors. And, in our capacities representing different districts, we're listening to issues in the county and our day-to-day life outside of the meeting. So that's an opportunity for us to bring ideas in here, but it's also really important for the public to always feel welcome to be able to speak to us about issues that are concerning them. So I think that is, paramount to the whole process. When we hear these comments, the comments can be a wide variety of issues. And they can range in, high levels of severity, like, the flooding in Quarry Park, big issue, and it's a real issue. And I understand it's also been, somewhat addressed, by the department at prior times. But we're gonna hear a wide array of things. So we also have to be able to kind of appropriately filter, so we can, make reasonable assessments in terms of, okay, so what needs follow-up? What are comments that we can note? We appreciate the comment and we note that there's really nothing, to be done. Or maybe, stage it down the road or figure out what other department would be, appropriate for it. I could almost imagine we could get ourselves into a pickle if we overpromise. I think your point is really important, that we don't want to create an overly burdensome process for that, where we're hands are tied and we're doing a lot of stuff that's taking away from other activities. But I do wonder if there's a way to just note the public comments in the minutes. I don't know if we do that. I know these are recorded meetings anyhow. But just so they're there for posterity, and then we can always refer back to them. And that maybe if we look back, we could say, okay, well, each of these had a home, you know, it was noted, it was referred to Public Works, it was taken on by the department, or just a comment, so we know that we heard everything and nothing got dropped. Because I think that's your point, is that
Right.
it would be very, very rude of us to listen to a comment and then just let it fizzle without something.
Right.
So those are my thoughts.
Any additional comments before we open it to the public? This is just an informational item, you know, there's no expectation to take any specific action on it.
I will say one thing because, and Hannah, I think can echo this, again, to sort of provide some more context. You know, I think a lot of the frequent public speakers who come to these Parks Commission meetings and have made comments quite often come to Board of Supervisors meetings and make those same comments. And so, you know, I think like you are not the only place that those
Right.
comments are being made. So those are being made in other settings as well. And then, you know, I think in Cherokee, I've been coming to these meetings now with you for 5 years. I think you're always excellent with reminding people sort of what is and what is not the commission's role.
Right.
About, you know, I think I've made this point a couple times over the years. I think there are folks who maybe think of the parks, of this commission as being like an oversight body for the Parks Department, which you're not.
Yeah.
You are here to make, you have 3 things, right, in your mission. One of them you did at this meeting, which is making recommendations about fish and game funds. One of them is about fees. And then the other is the big one, right? That's the making policy recommendations to the Board of Supervisors. And so, you know, I think sometimes the comments that are being made or the questions that are being asked don't really touch upon any of those things. And so, you know, if the issue or the question or the thing that somebody wants to talk about is not ultimately something that you intend to make or consider as a policy issue for which you might make a recommendation, then that's probably not something that you would necessarily consider putting on an agenda or further discussing. And again, I will compliment you, Chair Okila, because I've heard you for years really remind people about that and keep things sort of germane to the conversation.
Open it to the public.
Yes, so we do have a hand raised for public comment at Burnett Severia. Burnett, just give me one moment. Yeah, Burnett, you should be able to unmute and speak.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for considering the comments that you made about the concerns that are raised by the public. As you may know, I was the one that brought up my group is the one that brought up the concerns about the flooding runoff from Quarry Park. I understand the concerns that are being raised, but and the amount of discussion involved by the commission and its involvement in general, I believe you have to look at the substance. We're looking at an issue that, as the chair said, is a dangerous issue. It can cause injury and harm to people in the community. To basically disregard it and not at least have some discussion of how maybe we can resolve this problem, I don't think is really what the commission wants to be doing. There'd be maybe other things that don't rise to that level, and then it could be justified as far as who's involved. It could be parks. In this instance, it could be parks, it could be public works, it could be joint. One issue that I've thought about is, could there be a better management of the water levels in the dam so that it can absorb larger amounts of water when there's these extreme rains that we get? Is that a parks? Is that a public works? Is that even something to think about? I mean, having the commission discuss the problem, come up with some ideas in which maybe to suggest to the park department or to the public or to the board of supervisors. And no, I'm not one that brings it up every time that the board of supervisors meet. It has been brought up at various times through the years, and it has been discussed with briefly with Supervisor Mueller. But I think that there does need to be an involvement by this commission when you have something like this, that it's a dangerous issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Burnett.
Thank you.
And that's all for public comment.
So we can close the discussion on this item and move on to the other subsequent items. Subcommittee updates. Budget and Performance Subcommittee. No, I'm on that committee, so there's nothing there. I don't know whether there's any member of the public that wants to say anything on that item. 8.1.
No.
Equity, inclusion, and access sub.
I think I am assisting on that, or I belong to that subcommittee. I think with a lot of in the bit of interest and in the forthcoming of the new year and with this commission, all along, our intention is to raise awareness and to allow those community members, whether it's from ethnic or income or backgrounds, just the ability to access county parks and the opportunity to, and you and I have shared this for as long as I've been on the commission and trying to expand the horizons of just really trying to get more of a diversity and just, hey, this is your park as well. We'd like more youth and more field trips and more families to visit the county parks that are in San Mateo County. So I think I have that as a responsibility, and I intend to serve another term on this commission. So I think that's something I have to increase awareness for more park visibility from the community.
It was very heartwarming to get somebody from Sunshine join us at the last meeting. He happened to be listening, and he promised he was gonna take something up with the Suntrine's board regarding, public transportation access, to parks. So I think that very heartwarming, and yeah, I'm fully supportive of this commission.
And
Continue to exist, and hopefully we can make a recommendation to the board, to
And
the UAS regarding the issue of access and how, the county may respond.
and what's important, Chair, is who appointed me, who's the current District 5 Supervisor, David Canepa, also sits on the Samtram's board. So maybe we can try to collab and create opportunities for seniors, for youth, for folks who aren't able to, whether at any income level or anyone is open, who might have a challenge to get a ride or to drive over there, or who doesn't have a car. Just get those, maybe Samtrams might have a program where they can shuttle some folks over, whether it's a school or a field trip, or seniors, or those who aren't able to drive or don't have a car. Say, hey, Samtrams, or hey, Supervisor Canepa, is there a way that we can try to collaborate with Samtrams, or does such a program exist where we can provide those to Coyote Point, or those to Crystal Springs, or those to some parks alongside the coast, or further alongside San Mateo County and further furthermore. So I think that's something I need to reach out to my supervisor, who appointed me as a commissioner, nearly 8 years ago. So I think I have a civil duty to at least do my part and say, hey, we are looking for park awareness. And let's see what we can do for the upcoming year.
So, but you know, I want you to look at it from the perspective of what our role is. Okay, we cannot establish a program as a commission.
We can recommend.
Yeah, we can suggest to the board of supervisors that this is the situation, this is the visitor data to a park. And there are these gaps in terms of certain demographics. Okay, and we can just say, recommend something, but let it go to the board. Rather than, us trying to.
Take it upon ourselves.
Contacting some, trying to establish a program. Okay, so any public comments on this?
No hands raised.
Okay, no hands raised. 8.3. Partnership and Connection Subcommittee.
I'm on that, but I don't have any updates.
Okay. Okay, so again, any public interest?
No hands raised.
Okay. The Agenda Subcommittee. I'm gonna defer to you.
I have no updates. Our agenda for the November meeting will be focused on seeing the improvements for Don Horsley County Park.
Yes.
It's a nice tune to it.
Right. Agenda Subcommittee, any public comment, interest?
Yes, actually, Burnett, Severie, give me 1 minute, Burnett. Burnett, you should be able to unmute and share your comment.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say, this could be the avenue in which to determine, or should be one of the avenues in which to determine as to how much involvement the commission has on a particular issue. If it's a dangerous issue, it may be something that you want to develop a policy on, or at least address in some way. I think to just completely disregard something because it doesn't fit into a particular box when you know it's being dangerous to the community and it has the source from a county park, I don't think that's the right way to go. I think it needs to be looked at, thought about, and some hard decisions made as to what you may or may not want to do with it. But to simply disregard it because it doesn't fit into a particular box, depending on what the definition of that box is, because policy can be many things. So it might be one of the goals, but again, defining policy can be defined broadly or very narrowly or a lot of other different ways. But when you have an issue that is dangerous to a surrounding community, to a county park, that the source is coming from the county park, and to simply disregard it when you are the commission for the county parks, I don't think is the right way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Fish and Game Subcommittee report. We've just gone through that, so I don't foresee us having additional comments. But opening again to the public. Is there any member of the public that still may want to?
Before you open it to the public, can I have-
Okay.
I do have a comment on that because we did appoint it as an ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
And that to establish the process.
Right.
So are we now finished with that process and the committee disbands until at such time next year when we reopen the process? Or what is the actual term of life of a ad hoc committee?
I guess my feelings are until the Board of Supervisors make their decision. The ad hoc committee still needs to exist. They may decide to push it back to us for discussion. We don't know what the possibilities are. They may decide no, and so the ad hoc committee may have to, I don't know. But I'm thinking until the awards gets given, so forth, I think we should. there's an ad hoc committee, and then after that, we can talk about even making it.
And I think your fish and game subcommittee is different from like your fish and game evaluation.
Yeah,
committee.
correct. Well, I
So,
thought
yeah.
that the subcommittee just was to set up the process. The process is
Oh,
done.
yeah, you're right. I mean, ordinarily an ad hoc committee has a purpose, and once that purpose is fulfilled, then the ad hoc committee. So if what you're saying is
Yeah.
consideration should be given to either not having a fish and game subcommittee or reestablishing it in a year, you could absolutely do that.
So what does the commission feel that as it accomplishes its mission and we can hibernate it or take it all out all?
I think we can go on hiatus for a little while. I think we've had enough of this for the calendar year, and I think we can just sort of put it to the side until we realize what's our end game with it, you know, where are we going to succeed in the future? You know, I think we can set it aside to future discussion.
But
I agreed, however, with Chair O'Kello about maybe keeping it, you know, active and on the table until we hear from supervisors, because it may bounce, in which case it would be just nice to still be active. But hopefully that's soon. Do we have a timeline on when they may be able to review?
I believe it will either be a December or January board meeting where it goes forward, just in terms of timing for when we're doing our budgeting process for the fiscal year, because we would want to make sure it's appropriated with this funding, basically the subsequent funding cycle.
Nice. Seems good. And then the only other comment is, I think, for this to be kind of relevant in terms of, you know, even having funds to distribute, we have to wait for funds to build. The budget cycle is a 2-year budget cycle. You know, so you could almost imagine that this thing would come back on an every 2-year basis, perhaps, where there's kind of a process of, okay, well, let's refine the process again, you know, because I mean, so much work this time, next time it'll be much less.
I hope.
Yeah, you hope, yeah. So hopefully it's a fine tuning and then a review and then go through that, and then it can wait again for another 1.5 years or so.
But you know, the commission still has to make the decision, because I'm a member of that.
Mhm.
The two of us are members of that. Come December, I'm not gonna be. The commission is gonna have to make a decision about, okay, they will need to appoint somebody else to join that, to, you know, to keep the committee going. You know, and the other thing you'd indicated earlier is that this is the first time we're doing it. We've got to fine tune the process. We're gonna step back and say, okay, how did it work this time? And what are the things that we need to tweak? And you suggested a few items. You know, we probably could limit the answers. We can say in 300 words, so we don't give them. Some people write a whole dissertation and so on. So there are certain things that still need to be fine tuned in the process. So I see this committee as, you know, still having some work to do in, you know, before we say no. Do something.
Chairman, could I suggest that that the agenda subcommittee consider putting subcommittee structures on their December agenda?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Maybe that we can.
I would agree with that. So let's go to the public. Is there any public comment? The Fish and Game Fund Subcommittee?
No hands raised for public comment.
Very good, so we can proceed on to the next one. So items for the future agenda. If we go item by item and solicit public comment, it's gonna take a long time.
I think you should just do a single public comment for that whole agenda item, 9.
Number 9, okay, great. So currently what we have we have the county diversity, equity and inclusion stuff on there. We have the partnership and connections, you know, item on there. We have, an update on sustainability action for the Parks Department, alignment with the action plan for County Office of Sustainability and so on and so forth. And regional transportation being one major issue. We have fuel reduction project updates and a summary of revitalized Coyote Point survey. I think that's an issue that I brought up earlier. So we've added an item. Let's look at our subcommittee structure. Is it still relevant? And so we can add that item. So is there any other item that commission members may want to add to this
For the future agenda?
for future agenda?
No, I don't have a new item, but I do want to start really looking into the 9.2 partnerships.
Okay.
And starting to, talk with the department about groups we may want to bring in for updates.
Yeah. Any other comments from the commissioners? I'd like to put query off flooding. Just in terms of what our next steps will be. Whether we pass it on to public works and say we've done that, or whatever it is we're gonna do, I think we need to do sooner rather than later. The rains are coming.
Oh, we hope it's not going to be a massive rainforest, but it is Bay Area weather in the late winter and early January and February, so we are just hopeful that we don't get a tropical storm like condition that's just going to destroy everything. But you are right. Winter is in our rearview mirror.
So any other thing that we think we need to add to this?
Yeah, nothing extra from me.
By the way, I want to thank staff for including the policy of naming facilities. That was very, very informative. With Irma, I'd asked, how come you didn't sort of come through this, but the process that they've established, a supervisor can bring it directly to the board of supervisors and they know that they move on it. So thank you for including that. And of course, it also talks about naming benches that falls under our jurisdiction. You don't want to name a bench in a park, that's something that this commission deals with. So I will open it to the public. Any comments from the public regarding future agenda item?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Burnett. Burnett, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Okay, thank you for mentioning the flooding, but I would hope that 7.4 as a whole would make it to a future agenda. I think the points that you raised are important to individuals who come to the meeting and seek some guidance or help from you. And so in a broad sense, I would hope to come up with some kind of a procedure or process to handle those, to get some response to people, because I'm sure you can imagine that you bring up what you feel is an important and concern to you or a group of you and get no response back at all. So I thought it was great that you were going to try to come up with some kind of process to at least give some to the individuals that bring up these concerns. If they reach the level where they really deserve a response, that they do get a response, even if it is only to, hey, we've heard your issue. It's not in something we can do. We suggest you talk to so-and-so, and maybe you can facilitate getting that talking point started. Would be just great. I mean, I think that's one of the problems that we're having with our people feel about our government right now, is they feel like we talk at you, but never get any kind of response back. And sometimes the government officials have made up their mind ahead of time and aren't really listening to you. And I think this would go a long way to making people feel more comfortable, feeling able to come to and talk to their government officials. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I think, the consensus of the commission does include that. Okay. All right, so now we have, we've added, 9.6, which is in the subcommittee infrastructure for the commission. We've added 9.7, quarry park flooding. And we've added 9.8, process protocols, so how to deal, with the public comments. Okay, so that being the case, gives me great pleasure to go to item number 10. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Nice work, Jerry.
Thank you.